The ocean stretched endlessly, a living canvas of shimmering blues and silvers that danced beneath the sunlight. Deep within its heart, where light faded into soft twilight, lay the hidden kingdom of Aquilora, a magnificent realm of coral palaces, glowing pearls, and singing currents. In this underwater paradise lived Marina, the youngest daughter of the Sea King, a curious and tender-hearted mermaid who longed to understand the mysteries of both the ocean and the world above. Her hair flowed like crimson seaweed, her tail gleamed like emerald glass, and her eyes held the soft ache of someone who dreamed of more than what she had been told. From her earliest days, Marina was drawn to the unknown. While her sisters admired their jewels and practiced royal etiquette, Marina swam far beyond the safe borders of the kingdom, exploring forgotten shipwrecks and whispering caves where ancient voices seemed to hum through the currents. She collected human trinkets, shards of glass, rusted mirrors, music boxes, all treasures from the world above that told stories of laughter and sorrow. But her father forbade her to surface, warning that humans were dangerous, selfish creatures who destroyed what they touched. Marina never argued aloud, but deep inside, her heart disagreed. One evening, while the kingdom prepared for the Coral Festival, a dazzling celebration of song and dance that marked the rising of the silver moon, Marina swam away once again. The currents were gentle, the sea glowing with drifting lights like fallen stars. She followed a soft sound, something like a voice carried on the tide, until she reached the edge of a shadowy trench. There, a current of colder water wound upward, and the sound became clearer, a human melody. It was the first time she had ever heard someone sing above the surface, and the song filled her chest with an aching wonder. She rose slowly, cautiously, until her head broke through the waves. The night sky above was vast and filled with constellations that glittered like spilled diamonds. And there, not far away, she saw a ship. Lanterns glowed along its deck, and laughter echoed over the sea as sailors celebrated some unknown joy. Marina's heart pounded with excitement and fear. She stayed hidden, her eyes fixed on one figure, a young man with dark hair and kind eyes, who sang alone at the bow. The melody was filled with longing, a song that spoke of love and loss, and though Marina could not understand every word, she felt the emotion as if it were her own. But as the song faded, a sudden storm gathered without warning. The wind roared, waves rose high, and lightning split the sky. The ship lurched violently, and the sailors' laughter turned to cries of terror. Marina's instincts screamed for her to dive back to safety, yet something in her heart refused. She watched helplessly as the ship broke apart, its lights swallowed by the furious sea. And then, she saw him, the young man, thrown overboard, sinking slowly into the darkness below. Without another thought, Marina dove after him, her tail slicing through the stormy water. For the first time in her life, she was no longer a curious child of the sea, she was a savior chasing a heartbeat. The storm raged with furious might, the waves clawing at the heavens as thunder shattered the air. Marina pushed through the churning sea with powerful strokes, her long hair whipping around her face. Lightning flashed above, lighting her way as she descended into the depths where the young man had vanished. The water was cold and heavy with silence, broken only by the faint drift of bubbles escaping from his lips. His eyes were closed, his body limp and sinking fast. Panic surged through her, he was fading, becoming just another secret swallowed by the ocean. Without hesitation, Marina wrapped her arms around him and began to swim upward, her heart beating like a drum against his still chest. Breaking through the waves, she gasped for breath she didn't need. The rain fell hard, stinging her face as she dragged the unconscious man toward the nearest shore. His weight was unfamiliar, solid, fragile in a way that no creature of the sea could be. As dawn broke, the storm eased, and the first rays of light stretched across the horizon. Marina found a quiet stretch of sand surrounded by sea grass and rocks. She laid him gently upon the shore, brushing the wet hair from his forehead. He was pale, motionless, and yet, when she pressed her ear close, she heard it, the faint, struggling rhythm of a heartbeat. Relief flooded through her, warm and trembling. For a long while, she simply watched him breathe. The sunlight touched his skin, turning the drops of water into tiny crystals. He looked peaceful now, as though he belonged to both worlds, the sea and the sky. Marina wanted to stay, to hear his voice again, to see him open his eyes. But already, the sound of approaching voices drifted across the cliffs, humans searching, calling out. Fear pierced her heart. If they saw her, she would be hunted, captured, maybe worse. With a heavy sigh, she touched his hand one last time and whispered, "Remember the sea." Then she slipped back beneath the waves, leaving him in the warmth of the rising sun. When Marina returned to Aquilora, the kingdom was buzzing with worry and anger. The Sea King's guards had been searching for her since the storm began. Her father, a towering figure with a crown of coral and eyes like deep sapphire, waited in the throne hall, his expression dark with fury. "You disobeyed my law," he thundered as the currents stirred around him. "You went above the surface." Marina trembled but stood tall. "I saved a life, father. A human would have died." The king's face hardened. "Humans bring death wherever they walk. You risked exposing us all for one doomed soul." His words stung deeper than any wound, yet Marina couldn't regret her choice. She felt something had changed, inside her, and perhaps in the fate of both their worlds. That night, long after the kingdom had fallen silent, Marina swam to her favorite coral alcove, her secret place of thought. She held a single token she had taken from the shore, a silver pendant that had slipped from the young man's neck. Etched into it was a crest, a crown above a ship. He was no ordinary sailor. As she turned the pendant in her hands, she realized the truth: he was a prince of the human world. The knowledge filled her with both wonder and dread. Somewhere above, he might be alive, searching for the face he saw only in a dream. And deep within her heart, Marina felt the first sharp pull of something she had never known before: love. Days passed in silence, but Marina's heart refused to rest. Every current she swam through, every melody sung by her sisters, seemed to carry echoes of the prince's song. She found herself returning to the shore again and again, hiding among the rocks to glimpse the human world. Once, she saw him there, alive, standing by the sea. He walked slowly, his leg wrapped in bandages, his eyes scanning the horizon as though searching for something lost. Marina's breath caught. She wanted to call out, to tell him she was there, but she could not. Her voice, her beauty, her very existence were forbidden to him. Yet the sight of him awakened something deeper than curiosity, a longing so fierce it made her tail tremble. When she returned home, everything in Aquilora seemed dull and distant. The songs of her sisters felt hollow, the shimmer of the coral palaces too bright, almost painful. Even her father's booming voice faded beneath the tide of her thoughts. She began to withdraw, spending hours in the silent gardens where the seaweed drifted like slow green smoke. Her dearest friend, a gentle dolphin named Liren, tried to comfort her, but Marina's eyes were always far away, fixed on a world beyond reach. "You cannot love him," Liren warned softly. "The sea and the land are not meant to meet." Marina smiled sadly. "Then I will change the tide." It was that same night that she heard whispers in the deep, voices of the current, speaking of one who could grant impossible wishes. The Sea Witch. A being older than the coral kingdoms, living in a sunless ravine where few dared to swim. Every mermaid child grew up hearing tales of her, how she could twist fate for a price, how she dealt in secrets and souls. Marina's heart pounded as the thought formed: if anyone could make her human, it was her. The idea terrified her, but the ache of longing was stronger. She could no longer bear to love only in silence. From shadows below, guided by courage and desperation, Marina swam to the edge of the abyss. The water grew darker, colder, as if the sea itself wished to turn her back. Strange shapes moved in the gloom: eels, jellyfish, broken shells that whispered as they turned in the current. At last, she saw it, a cavern glowing faintly with violet light. Inside, coils of smoke rose from cauldrons carved into the stone. The Sea Witch sat upon a throne of bones and coral, her eyes gleaming like polished obsidian. "So," she murmured, her voice smooth as oil. The little princess comes seeking what her kind cannot have. Marina bowed her head, trembling. I wish to walk on land. To be human. The witch smiled, a slow, knowing curl of her lips. Ah, love. The cruelest of gifts. She circled Marina, studying her like a precious gem about to be cracked open. I can give you legs, child, strong, graceful ones that will carry you upon the earth. But every step will feel like walking on knives. And you will pay dearly. Marina swallowed hard. What must I give? The witch's voice deepened. Your voice, the song that could charm the sea itself. In exchange, you will have one chance. If he loves you and kisses you before the next full moon, you will remain human. If not, you will belong to the sea, forever. For a long moment, Marina hesitated, then nodded. I accept. The witch laughed, and the sound echoed like thunder in the deep. The sea witch's laughter rippled through the cavern like thunder rolling across the deep. With a flick of her wrist, she conjured a shell-shaped chalice filled with swirling silver light. Drink, she said, her eyes gleaming with cruel delight. And say goodbye to what you are. Marina's heart raced. Every instinct told her to flee, to swim back to the warmth of Aqualora, to the comfort of her sister's songs and her father's stern but loving eyes. But love, fierce, unstoppable love, anchored her where she was. She took the chalice in trembling hands and drank. The potion burned like fire and ice. A shock of pain surged through her body, twisting her tail until she cried out, though no sound left her lips. The glow from the witch's cauldron flared bright, illuminating Marina's form as her tail split and reshaped. Scales fell away like shards of glass, and in their place, two pale, trembling legs emerged. She clutched her throat, realizing that her voice, the very essence of her, was gone. The witch watched with a smirk. Now go, little fool, she whispered. Let the tide carry you to your fate. The currents pulled Marina upward, through the blackened waters and toward the surface. When she opened her eyes again, she was lying on the sand beneath a morning sun, waves lapping gently at her feet. Her body felt strange, heavy, fragile, exposed. The air was sharp in her lungs, the sunlight almost blinding. And then, through the blur of her awakening, she saw him. The prince. He stood just a few feet away, his eyes wide with wonder. Are you all right? He asked softly, kneeling beside her. Marina tried to answer, to speak his name, but only silence came. He smiled gently. You must have come from the sea. Don't worry, you're safe now. He reached out a hand, and she took it, her heart racing with both joy and sorrow. Days turned into weeks. The prince took Marina into his palace by the shore, where she was treated as a mysterious maiden rescued from the waves. She learned to walk, each step painful, as though blades cut into her feet, but she hid her pain behind a soft, graceful smile. Though she could not speak, her eyes told him everything her heart wanted to say. They spent their days wandering the gardens, watching sunsets over the water, and listening to music that reminded her of the songs she had lost. He grew fond of her, deeply, but there was a shadow in his heart. He still dreamt of the girl who had saved him from the sea, the one whose voice had called him back from death. He did not know that the girl was right beside him all along point one evening. As the moon rose over the waves, Marina stood by the balcony overlooking the sea. The air smelled of salt and longing. The prince joined her, his eyes full of gentle sadness. Sometimes, he said softly, I think I can still hear her voice, the one who saved me. Marina felt tears sting her eyes. She wanted to scream the truth, to sing it to the stars. But her voice was gone, locked forever in the sea witch's grasp. All she could do was touch her heart and look at him with silent devotion. He smiled faintly, unaware of her pain, and whispered, if only I could find her. In that moment, Marina realized the true weight of her bargain. She had given everything, yet it still might not be enough. The days that followed were filled with beauty and sorrow in equal measure. The prince and Marina grew closer, bound by quiet companionship and unspoken emotions. He admired her kindness, her gentleness, the way she seemed to understand his soul without ever speaking a word. Yet, in the shadows of her joy, Marina felt the slow ache of despair. The sea witch's warning haunted her: if the prince did not love her truly, if he did not kiss her before the full moon, she would belong to the sea forever. Each night she watched the moon rise higher, its pale light like a silent clock counting down her heartbeat. Stood on the eve of the full moon, the palace was alive with music and light. The prince was to announce his engagement, to the princess of a neighboring kingdom. Marina's heart shattered when she saw the young woman enter, kind, radiant, her voice clear as sunlight. And when she sang, the melody was hauntingly familiar, the same song Marina had sung to save him on that stormy night. The truth struck like lightning: the sea witch's spell had twisted fate. The prince believed this new princess was his savior, the voice that called him back from the depths. Marina stood frozen, silent, watching as the man she loved took another's hand. That night, when the celebration faded and the moon climbed to its highest, Marina slipped away to the shore. The waves lapped gently against her feet, whispering her name. Her sisters appeared, their faces pale and tearful, their hair flowing like mourning veils. "We found her," one said, holding out a blade carved from a sea serpent's tooth. "The sea witch gave us this, a way to save you. If you take the prince's life before sunrise, his blood will break the spell, and you will return to the sea." Marina took the dagger, her trembling hands reflected in the moonlight. It glowed faintly, pulsing like a living heart. She crept into the prince's chamber, where he slept beside his bride-to-be. The moonlight traced the lines of his face, peaceful, unguarded, and full of dreams. Marina raised the blade, her heart a storm of love and agony. But as tears spilled down her cheeks, she knew she could not do it. To save herself by destroying the one she loved would make her no better than the darkness she had fled. Gently, she kissed his forehead, a silent farewell, and turned toward the open sea. As dawn broke, she ran to the edge of the cliffs and leapt, her body dissolving into foam as the first rays of sunlight touched her. But the story did not end in death. As her body became one with the sea, a warm, golden light enveloped her. The pain faded, replaced by a feeling of boundless peace. Voices, soft and melodic, surrounded her, the spirits of the wind and waves. "You have done a selfless thing," they whispered. "Your love has freed you." Marina looked down to find her form changed, no longer mermaid or human, but something lighter, brighter. She rose into the morning sky, a spirit of the sea breeze, watching as the prince awoke and gazed toward the horizon. A gentle wind brushed his cheek, carrying her final whisper, "Remember the sea." And though he never knew why, he smiled, feeling that somewhere out there, love still watched over him, eternal as the tide.